How is it going, databases? No data here, and welcome back to another episode of Roblox Assassin. And we are doing yet another top 10, ladies and gentlemen. It has actually been an extremely long time since I've done a top 10. I think the last top 10 I've done was 3 months ago, which is crazy. It's been so long since I've done a top 10. I feel like there's not a lot of top 10s to do left in Assassin. I feel like I've done just about all the top 10s you could do. I've done top 10 exotics, mythics, dreams, best knives in general, top 10 worst knives in general, best maps, best effects. I haven't done top 10 pets yet. I might do that in the future. But, I don't know, I feel like we've done all the top 10s we could possibly do. Let me know in the comments any other top 10s you guys want me to do. Personally, I don't think there's much else we can do with the top 10s, but, you know, I do update some of these lists from time to time, and this is one of those updated lists, ladies and gentlemen. In this video, we are going to update the list for the top 10 rarest knives in Assassin. There are many rare knives in Assassin. Most of them are honestly really low in demand. You know, most of those, like, rare knives that are super hard to find are actually really low in demand. Like, not a lot of people want them, so people kind of just dismiss them, and they end up being very rare as a result. So in this video, we are going to count down the top 10 rarest knives in Assassin, and hopefully shed some light on some of these knives. So a couple things before we begin this countdown. First of all, I have removed the banhammer from this list. In the old version of this list, banhammer was number 1. I decided to remove that just because it's a developer exclusive knife. I don't really feel like it should count, so you know what, I'm just gonna get rid of it. Other than that, it can be any knife or pet, but it's mainly gonna be knives. And this might not be 100% accurate. Again, we don't really know the exact quantity of all the knives, except for a couple of specific knives like champion axe and stuff like that. But other than those, we don't really have an exact number of knives in existence, so we really don't know exactly how rare they are. But, you know, it's sort of a combination between how often you see the knife, how old it is, how low in demand it is. Because, again, low demand kind of makes people dismiss the knife as not valuable. So it ends up being more rare as a result. So yeah, again, I'm sorry if it's not 100% accurate, but I'm going to be as accurate as I can. I definitely think I'm more accurate than the previous list. You know, Assassin has changed quite a bit. If you guys are excited for this episode of Assassin, then be sure to drop a like on this video. It helps out a whole lot. Also, guys, if you're new, be sure to subscribe. Once we hit 100,000 subscribers, we are going to give away the best exotic in the game, the Elegant Blade. Be sure to subscribe so that you're notified about that. Anyway, without further ado, let us begin the countdown. At number 10, we have the Kool Aid. Now, the Kool Aid is actually a common, and the Kool Aid was a code knife in summer of 2016. Now, for those of you who are not aware, Assassin came out in March of 2016. So this wasn't too long after Assassin came out. Assassin was pretty small back then, not a lot of people played it. So the Kool Aid was a common knife code during that time. You could put in a code and redeem this Kool Aid for free. So again, not a lot of people played the game back then. So obviously, a lot of people didn't really redeem this code. And then over time, Assassin became a lot more popular. A lot more people started playing Assassin. And then when they saw Kool Aid, they really didn't think anything about it because, oh, it's just a common. It's just a knife that has a drink on it. Like, who really cares? There's not too much about it. You might as well just craft it into a rare, right? Who really cares? But it turns out the Kool Aid was pretty rare as it was, and then people started crafting it away, and Kool Aid is probably one of the rarest knives in the game now. Obviously, because of its low demand, it's not too valuable, but it is something to take into account. At number 9, we have the Quantum. Now, the Quantum, in my opinion, is the rarest legendary in the entire game. Now, there's a lot of rare legendaries. We have MLG, Tropical, Molten, Planet, but I feel like Quantum is the rarest of the rare legendaries. Now, I didn't really play Assassin back when Quantum was available, but I believe Quantum was an unboxable knife back in the day, and then for some reason, Prisman just decided to remove Quantum. You can't unbox Quantum anymore. So yeah, it ended up being a very rare knife, and it was another situation where a lot of people didn't really think Quantum was that valuable, so they ended up crafting it into an exotic. And then the quantity of Quantum went down more and more, and eventually Quantum became a very rare knife. Now again, this is more anecdotal if anything, but it seems like Quantum is probably the rarest out of the rare legendaries. It probably has the lowest demand. Personally, I hardly ever see quantums. I hardly ever see quantums around. Nobody really has quantum anymore just because of how rare it is. And honestly, I feel like quantum doesn't get as much attention as, you know, molten and planet and tropical. Molten definitely has the most attention. Molten definitely has the highest demand out of these low demand rare legendaries. So yeah, if you have the quantum, pat yourself on the back, good sir, because honestly, not a lot of people have the quantum. At number 8, we have the Spectrum. Now, the Spectrum is an unobtainable rare knife. This is yet another situation where it used to be unboxable and now it's not for some reason. And once again, it's another situation where a lot of people really didn't think too much of it. They ended up, you know, getting rid of Spectrum and crafting it into a legendary, so the quantity went down significantly. But yeah, the Spectrum is an insanely rare knife. If you can find this, it is absolutely insane. It is pretty valuable on the value list. It is currently 7 exotics, so that's quite a bit of exotics to get for a measly rare knife. Knives that are in the rare tier aren't really necessarily rare most of the time. Like, it's just one tier above common, and then there's like legendaries and exotics. So knives that are considered rare aren't really rare. But you know, something like Spectrum, that is a rare that is very rare. You know what I mean? And it just looks like a completely ordinary knife. You wouldn't really think anything of it if someone were to trade it to you. But if you have this thing, do not get rid of it. It is insanely hard to find. At number 7, we have Static. This is pretty much in the exact same situation as Spectrum. It was an unboxable rare knife, and now it is no longer unboxable. Static and Spectrum kind of just go hand in hand. People just kind of associate them together. They're somewhat equal in rarity, I feel like. However, personally, I feel like Static is a little bit more rare than Spectrum. I see less Statics than Spectrum in general. I feel like there's a couple more Spectrums out there than there are Statics. But yeah, Static is yet another extremely rare knife that you wouldn't really think much of when you get it. But it turns out Static is extremely rare. If you get the Static, be sure to hold on to it because that thing is extremely hard to find. At number 6, we have the Flakes. Now, the Flakes was a code knife back in the Christmas 2016 event. This is actually when I first started playing Assassin myself. I started playing in the Christmas 2016 event, and I redeemed the code for Flakes. But yeah, there were a lot of code knives during that time, and nobody really redeemed Flakes. Flakes was kind of just, you know, brushed off compared to the other code knives like Candy Cane and Cole. Cole was a very big code knife. Gonna get into that in a little bit, but yeah, people really kind of dismissed Flakes. Nobody really redeemed it that much. Nobody really said much of it. And then Flakes wasn't tradable for a very, very long time. Everyone kind of just forgot about it. And then it suddenly became tradable and it had extreme value. It had very high value for a while, but then the demand increased, so Flakes is currently 8 exotics, which is still pretty valuable, but for a knife this rare, 8 exotics is honestly kind of low. The demand for Flakes is pretty low at the moment, honestly. Not a lot of people want Flakes at the moment, so the demand for it is kind of on the low side. But yeah, there are a handful of people who are still looking for Flakes. In my opinion, I feel like Flakes has higher demand than Static and Spectrum. There's a lot of people who have kind of acknowledged that yes, Flakes is extremely rare. So yeah, Flakes is a pretty rare and valuable knife, ladies and gentlemen. At number 5, we have Kool. Now, Kool is a very notorious knife. This is definitely the rarest common in the entire game. So Kool was yet another code knife in the Christmas 2016 event, but Kool in particular was a very, very special knife. You actually ended up using this in crafting. So in case you guys do not know the story, during the Christmas 2016 event, you would actually unbox Holiday Saber. Holiday Saber was in the Elite case, and it was also in the Sturdy case as well, so you could unbox the Holiday Saber, and that was super cool. And then you could redeem Kool with a code, and then there was a crafting recipe to craft the Krampus, and if you crafted a Holiday Saber and a Kool together, you were able to craft the Krampus. Now, unfortunately, those people who ended up crafting the Krampus, myself included, ended up losing quite a bit of value. The Holiday Saber actually ended up being worth more than Kool, just because of how easy it was to get a Krampus after you got Holiday Saber. All you had to do was redeem a code. So most people who got Holiday Saber ended up crafting Krampus. So eventually people realized that Holiday Saber was more rare than Krampus, so Holiday Saber ended up being more, not to mention how rare Kool ended up being. So again, Kool was a code knife, which by itself, code knives usually get pretty rare after a certain amount of time. You know, if you just give it a lot of time, the code knives are going to end up being pretty rare, like Kool Aid and Sinister. But again, most people who unboxed Holiday Saber ended up crafting away their Kools to get a Krampus. So a lot of people ended up getting rid of their Kools, which made Kool a lot more rare. I mean, if you think about it, you know, you go into Assassin, every single Krampus you see is basically a crafted away Kool. Like, you see a Krampus, it's like somebody at some point crafted away their Kool to get that Krampus. And then for years after that, Kool was not tradable until very recently. Kool became a tradable knife this year. And when it became tradable at first, it was absolutely insane because this knife was super rare and it had pretty high demand. This thing had insane value. I'm talking like 70 exotics, more than Competitor Blade 1 at the time, and that's currently one of the best knives in the game. Unfortunately, Kool has kind of fell from grace in terms of demand. In fact, it is so low in demand now that it has dropped from 70 to 17. Which is quite a big drop, but Kool is definitely the rarest common in the game, and still one of the rarest knives in the game in general. Not a lot of people redeemed it, and a lot of people that did just ended up getting rid of it to craft a Krampus. So it's pretty insane how rare this thing is. At number 4, we have the Elegant Blade. Now, the Elegant Blade was the first ever top 100 prize, and you guys know that the top 100 prizes end up being very, very good, very rare, very high in value. Elegant Blade is currently the best exotic in the game. We don't know for sure how many of them there are, but there's approximately 500 of them because there were 5 competitive seasons. And, you know, anyone in the top 100 would get one of the knives, so there's about 500. And then, of course, there's a handful of people who have disassembled them, so there's definitely less than 500 at the moment. But it's been well over a year and a half since the Elegant Blade has first become unobtainable, so this thing is extremely hard to find. There are quite a few of them floating around, but because of its insane value, most people that have it aren't really willing to trade it away. So it's really hard to get an Elegant Blade for yourself just because of how high value it is. And now we are on to number 3, and this is actually a tie, and you guys are probably going to think this is weird, but for number 3, we have Champion Axe 2 and Void Champion. Now, depending on when you're watching this video, if you're a bit of an early viewer, you're probably thinking, no data, why is this at number 3? There's currently only 20 Void Champions in the game. Obviously, the Void Champion is currently the rarest knife in the game, and that is true. But, you know, I don't want this video to be too outdated, and there's definitely going to be more seasons with the Void Champion, so I don't want to immediately jump to the conclusion that Void Champion is the rarest knife in the game, when that might not be the case. So I didn't want to put it as number 1, but I also didn't want to exclude Void Champion from the list. Like, if I put all the other champion weapons and not Void Champion, everyone would be like, where's Void Champion? Why didn't you put that in? So I'm kind of just mentioning it in the number 3 spot. I do acknowledge Void Champion, but it's kind of hard to put it on the list right now, just because there's going to end up being a couple more Void Champions in the future, so I don't necessarily want to give it a number yet in terms of quantity. So yeah, I'm kind of just putting it in the number 3 spot to kind of acknowledge it. So yeah, Void Champion is number 3. It is the current top 10 prize, so during a competitive season, you can get this knife if you're in the top 10, which is extremely difficult. It is so hard to get in the top 10 nowadays. And yeah, it is definitely worth it. It's really worth all that work just because of how rare this knife is. And for number 3, we also have Champion Axe 2. This was the previous top 10 prize. Champion Axe 2 was the top 10 prize during the months of January through May. There were 5 seasons with the Champion Axe 2, so there are 50 of them, which is crazy. You know, there's thousands and thousands of players on Assassin every day. There's so many people who play Assassin, and the fact that there's only 50 Champion Axe 2s, that is crazy. That is absolutely insane. At number 2, we have the Champion Axe 1. This is an older champion weapon. The Champion Axe 1 was the top 10 prize during the months of June 2018 through December 2018. And there were only 4 seasons with the champion axe, so there's only 40 of them, which is crazy. It's absolutely crazy that there is only 40 of them around. And last but not least, at number 1, we have the Champion Blade. The Champion Blade is the best knife in Assassin. That's not even an exaggeration. This is the rarest and most valuable knife in Assassin. This currently has a value of 3,800 exotics. This was the first ever top 10 prize, and this was the top 10 prize in competitive mode through the months of June 2017 to May 2018. And I know what you're thinking, there was 5 seasons with the Champion Blade, so technically there is 50 of them, but I feel like there's a lot less active Champion Blades. Just like how Elegant Blade is more rare than Competitor Blade, the Champion Blade is definitely more rare than the Champion Axe. For one thing, the Champion Blade is a very, very old weapon, and a lot of people who have obtained the Champion Blade just don't play Assassin anymore. They're just not active players anymore, so they have the Champion Blade in their inventory, but they don't use it. They don't play the game. And not to mention, Champion Blade is a mythic, whereas the other champion weapons are dreams. So theoretically, you can craft away Champion Blade into an Elegant Saber, which is a horrible idea because Champion Blade is 3,800 exotics, whereas Elegant Saber is 15 exotics. But theoretically, it is possible to get rid of your Champion Blade, so with that in mind, there could be 1 or 2 people who have gotten rid of their Champion Blade. I don't really know if that's ever happened, but the fact that it's possible makes this knife a lot more rare, honestly. Just the fact that you can craft that away and just delete the knife from Assassin. Again, it's already super rare. There's only 50 of them. Less than that because there's not a lot of people playing, but the fact that you could just delete the knife from the game, that just makes the Champion Blade easily the rarest knife in the game. So again, you can craft away the Champion Blade, and some Champion Blade owners are either not willing to trade their Champion Blade or they just don't play Assassin anymore. So there's probably only like 10 to 20 active Champion Blades. So if you can trade for a Champion Blade, that is crazy. Because honestly, there's really just not a lot of them left. They're just not really around anymore because it's such an old knife and it was so hard to get and it's extremely rare. So yeah, the Champion Blade is easily just the best knife in the entire game. Anyway, yeah guys, that's pretty much going to be it for this video. Again, I hope this was somewhat accurate. It's probably not the most accurate list. It's kind of tricky to make a list like this because again, there's so many other rare knives like Planet and Sinister and Egg and Candy Cane and Reaper and Clover. Those are pretty rare, so I hope this is somewhat accurate. Let me know what you think. If there's any super rare knives that I missed, let me know. And yeah, that's going to be it for this video, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching this episode of Roblox Assassin. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and all those other things that YouTube people do, and I will see you guys in the next video. Stay purple.